ever think about like what would happen if like a fire or flood hit your business? Or even a cyber attack? I mean, losing all your data, that's gotta be a
Yeah,
nightmare.
it's definitely something business owners don't want to think about, but it's something we all need to consider.
Right, and that's why today we're diving into this document called Recuperación de Desastres.
Oh yeah, I read through this one. It's pretty intense.
Definitely grabs your attention. It lays out a plan for not just surviving those disasters, but like actually coming back even stronger.
Exactly. It doesn't sugarcoat anything. It like paints a vivid picture of what could happen, the worst case scenarios.
And the cost too, right? Not just financially, but like damage to your reputation too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It hits on that.
Yeah.
It makes you realize like, hey, you got to take this seriously and be prepared.
And it seems like a big part of their proposed solution is this partnership between Lumos LLC and Infrascale.
Yeah, they really emphasize that collaboration.
So what can you tell us about each of them? Like what do they bring to the table?
Well, Lumos LLC, they're the cybersecurity pros. You know, the ones who are constantly staying up to date on all the latest threats.
Okay, so they're like the frontline defense.
Exactly. And then you've got Infrascale. They specialize in backup and disaster recovery solutions.
So it's kind of like a two-pronged approach then.
Right. One focuses on prevention, and the other is all about making sure you can bounce back quickly if something does happen.
That makes sense.
Okay.
So what kind of services do they offer, like specifically?
They've got a whole suite of options, but the foundation is definitely cloud backup.
Oh yeah, they even have that quote in there, right? Something like, Adeus preocupações com perda de dados.
Yep, that's the one. Goodbye worries about data loss. They're pretty confident about their cloud backup solution.
But it's not just storing your data somewhere else, right? What makes cloud backup so special in this context?
Well, think about it this way. Say your office gets hit by a hurricane.
Oh, right.
With cloud backup, all your important data, it's not tied to those physical servers in your office anymore.
So even if your building's gone, your data's safe.
Exactly. It's securely stored in multiple data centers, accessible from anywhere with an internet connection.
So you could theoretically keep your business running, even in a worst-case scenario.
That's the idea. And another thing is the financial aspect. It's way more cost-effective than maintaining your own physical servers.
Especially for smaller businesses, I bet.
Absolutely. You only pay for what you need, and you can scale up as your business grows.
Okay, so cloud backup is important, but the document also dives into disaster recovery, which sounds a bit more complex.
Yeah, it is, but it builds on that cloud backup foundation. Think of it like this. Cloud backup makes sure you don't lose your data. Disaster recovery is all about getting your systems up and running again as fast as possible after something happens.
So they work together.
Right. Lumos LLC uses Infrascale's tech to create a plan that minimizes downtime and helps maintain business continuity.
They even say they can get businesses back online within minutes of a major incident, right?
That's what they claim. It's pretty impressive.
So can you give us some examples? Like what kind of disasters are they prepared to handle?
Okay, so give us a real-world scenario. Like, what if there's a natural disaster?
Right, like a hurricane or earthquake that damages your office building.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
what happens then?
Well, think about it. If your employees can't physically get to the office, they can't work right.
Unless they work from home, I guess.
Right. And that's where Lumos LLC comes in. They set up remote access to data and systems, so your team can work from anywhere with internet access.
Oh, wow. So even if their homes are damaged, they can still work.
Potentially.
Yeah,
Yeah, as long as they have internet, it's like taking your whole office virtual.
that's pretty amazing. But doesn't that create security risks? I mean, people working from home on their personal devices and stuff?
That's a valid concern. And Lumos LLC knows that.
Yeah.
That's why they have things like multi-factor authentication, strong encryption, and constant monitoring to make sure only authorized people can access the network.
So they've thought of that.
Oh yeah, they're very security conscious. What about something like a power outage? That seems like it could be a big problem too.
Definitely. The document talks about that specifically.
Good.
Lumos LLC and Infrascale set up a secondary data center. It's basically a backup location for all your critical systems.
Oh, so if your main data center goes down, everything just switches over to the backup.
Exactly. Seamlessly.
Yeah,
So you don't lose any uptime.
That's incredible. It's like a backup generator for your whole IT system.
Pretty much. It's essential for businesses that can't afford to go offline.
And what about cyber attacks? Like
Hmm.
ransomware. Those seem to be happening more and more.
That's a big one. And that's where Lumos LLC's preventative approach is so important. They have all these different layers of protection.
Like what?
well-advanced threat detection for one, and they also secure all the endpoints.
Endpoints.
Yeah, like laptops, smartphones, printers, anything that connects to your network.
Oh, okay.
By securing those endpoints, they make it way harder for malware or ransomware to get into your system in the first place.
So it's not just about having a recovery plan. It's about stopping the attack before it even happens.
Right. Prevention is key. But of course, sometimes things slip through the cracks. That's why they also stress the importance of regular backups.
Makes sense. So if you do get hit with ransomware, you can just restore your system to a point before the attack.
Exactly. You minimize the downtime and the potential data loss.
So it's like an undo button for your entire business.
You could say that. It gives businesses peace of mind knowing they're covered for all sorts of disasters.
It sounds like they've thought of everything.
Yeah.
But what about smaller things? Like someone accidentally deleting an important file? Does their system cover that too?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Remember those regular backups we talked about? Those aren't just for major disasters.
Oh, right.
They protect you from human error, too. So if someone accidentally deletes something, you can just restore it from a backup.
Okay, so it really is like an undo button for your business.
Pretty much. It's all about giving businesses peace of mind, knowing they're protected no matter what happens.
This all sounds great. But how can businesses be sure that Lumos LLC can actually deliver on all these promises?
Yeah.
You're making some big claims. That's a good point. I mean, how can you be sure they can actually do all this stuff? What makes them stand out?
Well, one thing is they're really serious about compliance and security standards. The document mentions they adhere to all these international standards like ISO 27001, NIST, all those.
Okay, I gotta admit, I don't really know what all those are.
Yeah,
You break it down for us? What does that mean for data security?
sure. So these standards, they're not just like checking boxes or something. They set up a whole framework for managing security risks, like ISO 27001, that's a big one. It's a global standard for information security management.
So they have to meet certain requirements to get that certification.
Exactly. It covers everything from risk assessment to access control, incident management, business continuity, you name it.
Okay, so it's like a seal of approval. Then businesses know Lumos LLC is serious about security.
Right. It shows they're not cutting corners.
But all this technology is only part of it, right? What about the people? Do they offer support to help businesses actually use these systems and set up their disaster recovery plan?
Yeah, absolutely. They have specialized technical support.
Oh, good.
They know not every business has like a whole IT department or their own cybersecurity experts. So they have a team of professionals who can answer questions, troubleshoot problems, and help businesses figure out the best way to implement their plan.
So it's like having your own on-call IT department.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a huge help for businesses that might not have those resources in-house.
We've covered a lot today, from cloud backup to all these compliance standards. What are some key takeaways for our listeners? What should they be thinking about after this?
I think the most important thing is to be proactive. Don't wait until a disaster happens to start thinking about disaster recovery. You need to assess your risks now, figure out what you're doing to protect your data, and make sure you have the right partners and solutions in place.
Because it's not a matter of if a disaster will happen right, it's when.
Exactly. And this deep dive, hopefully it's given everyone a good starting point. To understand what goes into a disaster recovery plan and how companies like Lumos LLC and Infrascale can help.
Definitely. It's a lot to think about, but it's important stuff.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with one last thought. We talked about a lot of different scenarios, but every business is different.
Right.
So take some time to think about what your specific vulnerabilities are.
Like what data is most important to you, what regulations you need to follow, what kind of threats you face.
That's it. Once you have a good understanding of your own situation, you can start building a disaster recovery plan that's tailored to your specific needs.
And if it feels overwhelming, remember, you don't have to do it all alone. There are experts out there like Lumos LLC who can guide you through the process.
That's right. They can help you build a plan that makes your business more resilient and secure.
Well said. So that wraps up our deep dive into disaster recovery. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk about this stuff.
And for everyone listening, stay curious, stay informed, and stay prepared. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.